Hello and welcome to Decorate It. My name is Mary and this is Wes. And this is episode 9. We're talking about feather inlays tonight.
Tickle, tickle, tickle.
You always get to say some craziness right out the bat, don't you?
Always.
So feather inlays. I really don't have anything negative to say about feather inlays.
I don't have anything negative, but when not taking time to practice, they can not look good.
Well, I think it's more the quality of the feathers and,
Yes.
Making
Making sure that it's an appropriate feather that's not going to bleed.
Well, yeah. So we'll get into like the do's and don'ts and kinds of stuff. We do also have Southern giving us some more inspiration photos as they contributed today. Not nearly as many as we had last time, which was over 80 photos, but this time I think we got around 12, including some of the ones I've done in the past. So not as many to go through, but definitely some amazing work by builders in general. Mm-hmm. The reason why we started incorporating people is because, we are not the end-all be-all builders. There's amazing talent out there, and I'd like to showcase what other people are doing too, because they are going to do things that I wouldn't have thought to do, or they're building rods that, they have a lot of feather inlays on them, or they can do more customizations instead of the crazy stuff that we do. So, feathers. There is a yes and a no to some of the ones that you can use. Craft feathers are no, especially dyed ones. Mm-hmm. Anything coming out of Hobby Lobby or Michael's, unless it is like a true natural feather, you're really going to want to stay away from them. Feathers that have a whole lot of fuzzies happening on them, they're not good to work with. Those fuzzies actually have to be stripped off in order for it to lay the way it's supposed to. I know a lot of people want to gravitate towards peacock feathers because they're beautiful.
But they kind of go away as soon as you use them.
They lose that iridescence factor for sure. And the eyes are typically really large, so it's really hard to get a smaller eye onto a rod without it wrapping a whole bunch, and you lose the aesthetics of it. I have seen a few people get it somewhat done, but the feather does darken a good bit. So it's kind of like, you gotta kind of have to just try it and see if it works or not. But that iridescent shine does kind of disappear for the most part.
What would you say a general rule of thumb would be for looking for feathers?
Any of the fly tying feathers, any of those capes that you're getting, eBay's actually a good resource for them. Going to Bass Pro, places like Cabela's.
Any local fly shop.
Any of the local fly shops, any place like that. Those fly tying feathers are the ones you really want to get your hands on because they are going to work the best. Even if they're dyed, they don't bleed like some of their other counterparts. Those craft store ones, I've had to use some in the past, which you'll see it tonight, but the pink fuchsia color I had to pull out to match this guy's rod bled a little bit, and it wasn't enough that he was like, and I was like, I really wanted to pull it off, fix it, and he told me if I did, he was going to shoot me, so I just left it on there. Okay, if you're happy with it, I'm happy with it. So getting those capes and things that are coming from the fly tying shops, I think that's where you need to focus on.
Spend the money and get good quality feathers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you see some in the wild, just make sure that it's not an illegal bird. You don't want to be putting, illegal bird feathers on there. You'll get in trouble.
It's a bit of a dangerous slope.
Better check and make sure it's not, endangered or protected.
No bald eagle feathers.
Don't put bald eagle feathers on rods. You'll get in a lot of trouble if somebody sees it.
Even if you have one, don't.
Even
just
if you
don't.
find it, it does
Just
not
don't.
matter to not do it. Speaking from some other people's stories in the past.
Just don't.
Just don't do it. And we had a funny story, which I'll let you.
So we had this wild idea that we were going to try and use turkey feathers. Pretty common. A lot of people have them, and
Not illegal.
not illegal to have. And so we wanted to try it. Well, a gentleman offered to send us the entire tail feathers from a turkey he had killed recently. I said, sure. Not thinking twice about it. Yeah, go ahead, send it. Yeah, he sent it. He sent the meat. He sent the butt. He sent every part that the tail feathers were attached to in USPS.
It wasn't treated.
Not overnight. It was snail mail. And when we got it, I opened the box going, oh, yay, the feathers are here.
Woohoo.
My immediate response as soon as I opened it and caught a whiff of the gangrene coming out of that box.
I said, what is wrong with you? And he's one of the few times that I actually saw Wes turn his nose up. And
I think I probably turned green. That was gross.
He couldn't tell me what was wrong with him to begin with, and I was like, what?
I just handed her the box and walked away.
He left.
Just walked away.
It wasn't a box. It was a package. It was a padded envelope that it came in.
No, it was in a box.
No, it was a padded envelope inside the box.
Yes.
So it was definitely incubating, to say the least.
I can still smell that box.
There was maggots growing in it because it wasn't treated. It wasn't
and that
tan,
was
cured, clean, none of that.
6-7 years ago.
Yep.
And just talking about it, I can still smell it.
So if you find feathers, make sure you clean them. Make sure you take care of them. Especially if you get them off of a bird you killed or something like that. Go ahead and get the meat and everything. Get it off of there. Clean it.
Yeah.
Because if you decide to
clean them properly,
ship it to somebody, it's just going to grow nastiness in the mail. And I think
we threw that away. Lesson learned. Make sure to be clear on. Go ahead and clean them off before you send them.
Go ahead and make sure you take care of it the right way. Anyways, what can we use feathers and stuff on? Where do you put them on the rod?
Any part.
Is there
you
any
can
place
literally
you can't
put it
them?
on. I mean, don't put it close to the ferrule, like where it's going to prevent the ferrule from expanding and going where it's going to go after use. But you can put them on the grips. You can put them as trims. You can put them on the rail seats and cover them and epoxy over them. You can put them on guide wraps. You can put them on ferrules. You can use them as alignment dots. There's not a spot on the rod that you can't use them.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form.
The little,
you can encase them and put them as a medallion. Like
they're probably one of the most versatile things that we can use.
Mm-hmm.
I would trying to rack my brain. Yeah, I think it's probably one of the most versatile things because they can go basically anywhere. Because
anywhere you can seal them off.
It's a feather. They're super light.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. We already talked about where you can buy. You can go to eBay. You can go to Cabela's or Bass Pro, fly shops, local fly shops. You can find them. Just stay away from the endangered stuff. So let's take a look at some other people's awesome work that they were doing and showcasing in the Southern Rod Builders, which if any of you guys are listening and you're not part of the group, feel free to join us. We only ask one question, and the question is just, why do you want to join the Southern Rod Builders? So first up is a good friend of ours, Jared Taylor.
Ooh, I can't wait till his other one.
Yeah, so this, I don't remember if this was his first. I think this was his first attempt at it. So Jared took the feather inlay and went above and beyond and said, I'm going to make a crawfish on this rod. And so he took a bunch of feathers and made the crawfish design. I just thought that was the coolest thing ever whenever he showcased it. He does a lot of fly rods, but I mean, look at that. This one, his second one. That one is amazing.
That one's awesome.
That one, he even got like the legs in that one. So he's used a bunch of different kinds of feathers. Do not ask me the names of all these feathers, but as you can see, big flat fluffy ones, well, not really fluffy, but big fat ones can work if you're trying to create a design. Real thin wispy ones can work as long as you can control them. And feather inlays, in my opinion, is probably one of the easiest things that we can do because it's so simple. It seems complicated, but it's not. And I'm hoping that we can kind of get through a demo later on. Joe Nicolo, back again with his capes in the background, now that we know the name of that from the last one where we couldn't figure it out.
We had our brain farts.
Our brain farts. So you can see that he's put a feather inlay in the reel seat insert. And he's also used them for alignment dots. And the alignment dots, he's just, I think that's the jungle cock is what they call it. So he's taking the eyes of
That's
it.
a fun word.
The jungle cock. I know why you like that. Another one of Joe's. I actually want to enlarge this a little bit. He actually used 16 feathers on this.
Wow.
So this is done in a lot of layers. And if you've not tried a feather inlay, I encourage you after this episode to try one. Obviously not a 16-layer one if you don't want to, but at least put a single one on there. And when you're doing it in layers, you let the bottom layer dry, and then you go and move to the next layer, and then to the next layer, and next layer, and next layer. Another one of Joe's. I actually want to keep it zoomed in and just show you this top section.
Is that Spanish moss?
I think that's supposed to be wool, actually. And look at that one.
That's pretty.
Mm-hmm. Jungle cock is probably one of my favorite feathers to see on rods. And the entire thing together. Like, super cool. So this one's not like one of my most fun feather inlays I did, but I kind of shaped the feather I used, which is a simple kind of brown neutrals kind of thing. And I try to shape it kind of like a heart, so you can kind of see where it kind of goes up and down. Nothing too fancy on that one. This one, I did 2 different feather inlays on this build. And so down here at the bottom, I have a bunch of the hackles. And those actually were colored. And the colored ones I got from Jared. So Jared sent me some of his, like a small little bit. And I've been using them for a long time. And then up here at the top, I did something I've never tried before. I had that weave, and I wanted to add a feather going around the rod, which is a hard feat to do. It was absolutely complicated, to say the least. I was having to apply CP, bend the feather because they don't like to bend that way, use a heat gun to dry it so it would be instantaneous, and just keep moving around. So it can be done going around the rod as well. It's just not as...
Who needs J-tops? Just use feathers.
It's just not... Yeah, that's kind of what I did. I was like, I don't want to put a Jim Terlinky's olive branch there. I just want to put a feather. Why not? Let's see what happens. So this is the one I was talking about with the bleed. So this particular rod, and you can see it if you pay attention to the center, there was a red bleed underneath the jungle cock, and there was a pink bleed on the top one too. But as I said, the customer loved it, did not want me to fix it. He did not want me to replace it. But this particular rod was a rainbow rod. His wife always sang Somewhere Over the Rainbow to him. So he wanted feather inlays to mimic the colors as well. So I had to hunt down the Roy G. Biv colors, and I could not find a pink. So yeah, I had to use a craft feather, which, like I said, it will bleed. Point in case right there. Ron Weber coming in with the super classic
Kind of like an
outline of the logo and the stats of the rod. That's my favorite way to see a feather done. Those the grizzly hackles where they just kind of whoosh and loosh around the stuff. I like to see that.
Very flowing with the rod.
And TJ Potter coming in with 2 of my favorite colors to combine, automatically off the top. And simple. He did it on the ferrule wraps, but nicely done. And some fun bright colors. Another one of TJ's. This is pretty. I typically don't do that long of a ferrule wrap, but I wouldn't even complain about it. That's gorgeous. Especially matching it up with the cork and the acrylic he's got with all those blues and the stripes in that one feather. Like, I'd love to know what feathers he actually used. And he even went in with JTOBs. Look at that. And the last one by TJ Potter. So we can see peekabooing over there in the corner is one of those fish grips that we were losing our minds over 2 weeks ago. You see the face where it's like burned in and painted or something. And then some feather inlays again. So that is actually the last ones that we have. I had a bunch of challenges in the past, and I was hoping a bunch of people, because there's a ton of people in Southern that do really cool feather inlays. And we've had a bunch where there was challenges where they did them, and they had them in the butt caps. They had them all over the place. But I put the post out way too late, which is probably part of the thing. People are out shopping. If I put it out earlier in the week, because Mary's terrible at planning some stuff sometimes.
Last minute.
I'm very last minute, and it sucks because not everybody sees it. They'll probably see it tomorrow, and I'll get dumped in like another 30. It is what it is. So that's just some examples. So let's talk a little bit about how to do it. I don't know exactly how this is going to go, but I have some supplies. This is 1/2-inch PVC. I've got some feathers and stuff behind me too that were kind of set up. So we're going to attempt to do this. Unfortunately, I couldn't figure out how I was going to get an overhead cam set up to where you could do this, but I have put out a few videos before on how to do a feather inlay, and if anybody needs it, let me know. I'm happy to send it to you. But you're going to need your blank, you're going to need some CP, you're going to need feathers, obviously. I like to use the cheap plastic throwaway paintbrushes. There for a while I was trying to use the good ones, but Mary kept forgetting to clean them or left them sitting in acetone for too long, and they all melted. Whoops. It is what it is. Mary forgets. That's why she used the plastic ones. So when I was practicing, I didn't want to waste all these expensive feathers, right? So I did exactly what I told y'all not to do, and I bought a cheap little $2 bag of these multicolored feathers from Hobby Lobby.
It will allow you to practice,
You can
but
practice it without wasting, but these are not going to work.
Don't do it on something you want to keep.
And you're not going to want to keep it after it's done either. All right, so you're going to grab your feather, and you're going to need a pair of tweezers and a pair of scissors.
We just happen to have some.
Yep.
Where'd those tweezers come from?
It came out of the thread set from CRB. All right, so you're going to take your feather, and if you have any of these fuzzies, you have to pull them off. Now, the easiest thing to do is just to grab them and strip them and grab it and just pull. They will literally just pull off in your hand a little tuft. So I'm going to pull it off to an extent, and then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut the rest of that off. Now, when you cut, you do want to leave the quill long enough that you can work with it, but you don't want it too long. And if you happen to be working with a quill, don't do it. If you don't be trying to tickle me. If you happen to be working with a quill that's really fat, what you're also going to need to do is to take a razor blade or a pair of scissors, whichever one's going to work, and cut it at an angle and feather it. And that's just to help it lay flat. So currently right now, looking at this feather, it has a really funky side where the feathers have split. So what I'm going to do is go above the funky, strip it down. This side got a little screwed up, but I think I can fix it with CP. So we're just going to strip that down on that side. And now I have an extra long piece of the quill that I can hold on to. Now, you can do this straight to your blanks. You can do this on thread. Either one is not a big deal. And you're going to take CP. And what I like to do is put just some down on the rod. Doesn't have to cover the whole distance. And then stick it to it. And don't worry about the quill being so long. You're going to use that to hold it in place. And you're going to take your CP and you're just going to paint it over top and lay the feather down. I love how I'm doing this with my left hand.
Right. Of all
hands. But it's because the mic's in front of me. But it's working. We're going to paint it down. I'm not going to worry too much about what's happening on the outside. You can work with a pick. You can work with toothpicks. You can work with your paintbrush. And once you get it flattened on there, you're now going to take your pick and start moving those outside threads exactly where you want them to go. And that really honestly is it, guys. You put a little bit of CP down on there and you just maneuver this thing around. Now you can also drag the feather down a little bit to get it to lay. If I can pick it up. Can't pick it up.
Tweezers.
Let's get my tweezers. And that will get all of them to kind of curl up too. And we just shape the outside. So feather inlays are not complicated by any means. They're super simple to do. Even just putting one little feather on.
And you can kind of lay it out ahead of time on just paper and not have it glued down to know what you're doing in the process.
That's actually what I do. I stage it. I lay out a bunch of different designs to try to figure out what I want to do, especially if I'm doing something that's kind of multi-layered. And because you can obviously move it around better there than if you start to stick it down on here. And due to the temperature in our shop right now, it's trying to dry really quick. But you just keep messing with it until you're happy. And that's one of the reasons why I like to do the CP. You have more time to get it to work. And if it starts to stick and you don't want it to stick, put more CP on there and you can slide it around and do whatever you need to do to fix it.
Yep.
Ta-da! Feather inlay.
It's literally one of the simplest ways to decorate your rod, and it's classy. It's not flashy. It's not loud. It's not...
It doesn't add that much weight.
Yeah, we'll get into that a lot later.
Once that dries, you can come back with your little scissors and cut off the quill.
You know, now that I look at this thread set that they have, it's actually really good for flies.
Thread tools have never looked so good. CRB's 5-piece thread wrapping toolkit has all the essentials for thread wraps in one place. This tool set includes 5 surgical-grade stainless steel tools, like curved thread scissors, straight thread scissors, a stainless steel curved tip tweezer, stainless steel flat tip tweezers, and a knurled steel thread pick. It also comes in a genuine oak storage case. So be ready for any thread situation with CRB's 5-piece professional thread toolkit. Available now at mudhole.com.
All right, so we are going to take a minute to thank our sponsors. Foundation Outdoor Group, thank you very much for all the stuff that you do for us and for everybody else in general. These fantastic Black Friday sales and all that stuff. Wes,
Yep.
You know all about that.
Currently, they actually have the G2 Power Wrapper kit on sale for, I want to say it's right at $350. You've got
It's a good deal.
8 foot of bed, the G2 head and all. They're redesigned rod stands. Is basically everything you need to get into the power wrapper side of things for $350. It's an investment, yes, but if you're debating between hand wrapper and power wrapper and don't want to spend $500-$600 on a power wrapper, it's a great deal right now. They're also going to be having some Cyber Monday sales, but definitely make sure if you're thinking about switching to a power wrapper from a hand wrapper or upgrading from an old dusty model that you have that's wearing out, that power wrapper kit is a great deal. Once you get into it, you can then upgrade to the advanced stands is what I'm going to call them. They are a little more robust on the higher end model that they have.
But they're so easy to change.
It's
Align
easy
stuff. It's just like boop, boop. So
it's one of the few things we found that can actually hold up to Mary using 2-inch or 3/4 inch PVC to wrap on and show all these demos. So.
Well, because the stands prior to that were pretty much set.
Yeah.
You know, there was it was.
You
the
could
bottom
bottom
was
out.
it.
These, if you bottom out, I don't know what you're working on, but good luck.
And the other thing is that I know they rolled out a different special. Well, they had 2 going on Friday where they had like a 20 or 25% off.
Yep. So that was if you tuned in to the live stream, which
Obviously
if you
that
didn't,
ended.
sorry, they were only doing I think 100 of those coupon codes, but they were doing 20% off instead of 15. So it's well worth it to get the notifications, pop in, see what we're talking about.
In summary for tonight, feather inlays are real easy, really elegant, and really sky's the limit on how to do them. You can make shapes out of them like Jared was doing where he made the crawfish. I've seen some other people like kind of recreate bugs or birds or something like the head or something like that. It's not really time consuming. You just have to kind of wait on the dry time. You know, it's kind of like working with custom grips. You got to wait on them dry before you can do anything else with them. But layer by layer, if you're going to do multiple layers, take them, lay out your feathers on a flat piece of paper. Just don't try to sneeze while you're working with them. I highly recommend to do painter's tape doubled over on itself so the sticky side is up and stick the quills to it.
How many times has that happened to you?
Oh, man. There's a lot of times where I'm like this, trying not to breathe on it because it's like flying all over the place. The first time I started working with them, my first one was that rainbow one. And it about drove me mad because feathers were just all over the place all the time. And I'm like, I can't do this. This is like, I'm breathing on
And then
them.
somebody finally said, just put tape down. And
Just put tape down. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes way more sense. I've seen them where they've added the little itty-bitty hooks as well.
You can do all kinds of things. And there's all types of feathers that can be used.
Just stay away from the dyed ones if they're coming from a craft store. If you're getting dyed ones, get them from a reliable fly tying store. eBay's got really great capes. I mean, there was one guy, one of our friends bought. He was only buying one, but I guess the guy was trying to move the product, sent him 4. You know. I
He's
got
like,
one
you
of
want
them.
one? Yes.
I'm like,
yes,
sure,
we do.
I'll take it. So I've got this fun little cape that I don't know what I'll do with it. Some of the feathers can get really expensive. It just kind of depends on what they are. But, if you go to Cabela's or some of the fly tying shops, you can usually buy them in smaller quantities and those massive capes and stuff. But they will last you forever. If you are pulling, I think that's one thing I forgot. If you are pulling them out of the cape or the skin, however you're buying it, make sure you take your tweezers down at the bottom of the base.
Yeah.
Hold it, yank. If you don't want to do that, now you can accidentally
And peel
skip
it off.
and, screw the entire feather up. So, if you'd rather be more comfortable in just cutting it out, that's fine too. But you don't do it with your fingers. I don't know what it is about it. I screw them up every single time.
Or slide your fingernail across it.
Yeah, it just screws up the sides, and then you're like, well, that feather's gone. But CP is your best friend. CP's got a long working time for the most part, as long as it's not super hot in your shop. If you're trying to be extra special like I was and wrap it around the blank, a heat gun with CP, don't burn it, don't scorch it. CP can bubble up, but, hit it, let it dry, hit it, just kind of give it some time. You'll concrete it down so you can rotate it again and do another little section and hold it and hit it. It can be done. It's just a pain. Most of the stuff I do is just a pain. So You can put them in your butt caps. You can put them in your real seats, your inserts.
You could inset them in the grips.
You can put them on the grips. You could inset them in the grips. I think I've seen a set of grips, cork, where they put feathers on it and then they sealed it with epoxy.
Yep, or some type of varnish or something.
But it was completely encased. Well, the sky's the limit. Alignment dots is the most common thing where they take the center eyes of something, whether it's the jungle cock. That's the one I see the most common. Or any other white dot. I've done it before, and they just on each ferrule. But as Wes mentioned earlier, everybody should know, if they don't know, that the ferrules will eventually stretch. So you have to allow the room for the ferrules to stretch. So you can't build a rod straight out of getting it the first time.
Can't have epoxy a quarter inch away from the ferrule.
It can't be that close because the ferrules will stretch. You'll go to cast it the first 2 times, third cast, it's gone. You got to leave room for it to stretch. It's going to stretch. And don't wrap it too tight because then you can actually compress the blank and cause it to break and all that other stuff too. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight and do appreciate it. Get out there, try some feather inlays.
All you need, CP, feathers, and rod.
And a paintbrush.
Well, they got that if they're doing epoxy. They got that if they're doing any kind of thread work.
But that's what you would need to do it. And if you want to lay it out prior, do the reverse tape with the painter's tape. Yep. I always suggest painter's tape because it doesn't stick to stuff, but painter's tape and lay it out flat. Try not to sneeze. Try not to breathe while you're working on it. Cover your nose. Put a face mask on. I don't know. But they will go floof all over the place. And you like that? Floof, floof, floof. That's what they were doing for me.
Anytime that happens now, you're going to hear that. Floof.
Floof. And put some CP on there. Straight to the blank. On thread. On epoxy. Any of the above. Paint your feather out flat. You're good to go. Just let it dry. If you're doing layers, make sure to let that bottom layer dry before you go to the next layer. But
have a great night. Thanks for watching. And
we'll see you later. Bye.